Welcome to our show. You're listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections, a place to learn about and celebrate creative arts therapy. Each week, we'll explore new ways that music, art, and dance can reach, connect with, and help individuals of all stages of health and wellness. Hi, I'm Bree, a board-certified music therapist and the managing partner for the Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute. Tune in as I interview professionals from healthcare and educational backgrounds on the impact of the creative arts. If you prefer to watch our live video stream, simply visit www.pbmti.com. Hello, thank you so much for joining us tonight. You're listening to and watching Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. I'm your host, Bree Gordon. I'm a board-certified music therapist and certified neurologic music therapist, working here locally in beautiful Southeast Florida with the Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute. I'm so thrilled to be here every single week to get an opportunity to share with our community, local community, national, and even internationally, about some really cool things that are going on when it comes to healthcare and education. Again, I feel so fortunate to be in an area, to be in South Florida, where there are so many opportunities to look for creative ways to reach individuals who are in need. And music therapy is just one of those ways. So this show, we get a chance to talk to a wide amount of creative arts therapists, of any kind of professionals or volunteers that are out there sharing their gifts, sharing their time in ways to just reach, connect, and comfort those in need in all stages of health and wellness. And the reason that we can do this, honestly, is because we're just out there in the community supporting one another. So Connections, this show is twofold. As I mentioned last week, it's introducing people to the creative arts and the professionals that are out there delivering it, but also to connect all people with resources. And one really valuable resource that I really didn't even understand the impact of until, during my college experience, is the importance of supervision. And, especially for a musician, we have private teachers for whatever our instrument is, but we really want to show, because we're perfectionists, that we can do it on our own. And the idea of seeking out supervision, or the idea that we might need that we might be lacking in some way, not making the cut in some way, and it might behoove us to reach out to another professional or peer for support, is difficult. It's difficult to admit that you need that. But the truth is, everybody does. It's honestly a strength to recognize that you need that, not a weakness as it might seem. And so it was a struggle for me, but I am so thankful that I did, because it honestly changed my life when I'm going to clarify this later, but I think when I was a sophomore in college, the new professor that had come onto our program started offering office hours for supervision, and there was a lot of, once you get into your sophomore, junior year in this program, things start to change because you are out in the community more. You're doing practicums, you're doing shadowing professionals out there, working with kids and seniors and hospice care and a variety of different settings that you've not yet been in, and a lot of challenges come up. And it can be difficult. We're doing our schoolwork during the day, and choir and band and musical and jazz and everything else that's going on in the life, particularly of a music therapy major. And then you are out in the real world getting ready to be a professional, and it's tough, and there's struggles that come with that as you're really going through this huge transition of student to professional. And I'm so thankful that I took advantage of those office hours to seek that supervision, because honestly, I learned things about myself that I didn't even recognize, and I would have severely limited myself and could have very well been happy, but I would have really limited my options of what I would have gone after, what I would have sought for my own professional goals if I had not been influenced by my mentor, Dr. Betsy King. And so I'm thrilled to have her back on the show today. It's been about a year, almost exactly a year. I think she was on our Halloween show last year. So it's been about a year since we spoke with her on the program. She was one of our first guests that we had. And at that time, promoting her brand new released memoir, Music Heard So Deeply. Music Heard So Deeply. And we are going to be talking about what a year looks like after releasing that, after writing down something so personal. This was not about, here's how to do, a session. Here's what music therapy is. This was not a definition. This was not citing research articles. This was a memoir. It was so personal. And what that feels like to have that out for a year and have people read it and come up to you and say, hey, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing your inner feelings about work and life and everything in between. So I'm going to catch up with Dr. King on that, as well as we've got National Music Therapy Conference coming up. Oh my gosh, just a couple weeks. I can't believe it. She's doing a few presentations there on some topics that she's really known for in the world of music therapy. So if you are in that field, you'll find it interesting from that perspective. And if you're not, please stick around, because you'll learn a lot about the field and kind of some of the intricacies of it, and some of the things about documentation and some challenges that we face as therapists, and how to overcome it. And I imagine there'll be a lot of crossover, even if you're not in this field, of just advice in general for new professionals coming out in the field. I can speak to what her insight and advice did for me, because I'm here. I truly would not have been here in Florida at all. I just had written off, my opportunity to come here was coming for this internship program that I mentioned, working in hospice care. And I thought, nope, that's a great program. I'm honored, to think that I might be able to audition for that. But I don't think that's too far away from home, or that's too high of a standard of a program. And she really pushed me to do it. Well, what's the worst that can happen? You don't get it, right? So I did. And 8 years later, here I am, literally living my dream. At age 30, I can say that I'm in a position, in a career, in a community that I couldn't have even dreamed of before, and that I would really can see myself for the rest of my life, So I fully attribute, just the help that got me to find that in myself to my guest today. And I hope you have time to stick around for the course of the hour and get some of her gems, as I'm sure she'll be doling them out. So excited to introduce you to Dr. King. She is also very generously, again, she did this last year, she's going to do it again, offering to do a giveaway of her memoir, Music Heard So Deeply. And we're going to have a little fun with it. Last year, we asked you to call in with your most embarrassing clinical moment. And oh my gosh, did people deliver? No one was ashamed. It was incredible. The things that were said live on the air were amazing. So it's not that bad this year. We really want you to call in and share a piece of music or a song or an artist that you think people would be surprised to hear that you like. So, we did Guilty Pleasures, Karen and I, the other day. Clearly, I have no shame. We did Britney Spears and everything else on here, in sync. I have no shame. But beyond Guilty Pleasure, no one would even think that you like this artist. Now, when we were talking about this earlier, I'm like, well, that's a great lead-in for, I always start the show with a sing-along, right? That's a great lead-in for me. But I can't reproduce what mine would be, because honestly, mine would be Eminem. I love Eminem. Early 2000s Eminem, I love it. There is no way, both physically and FCC regulated, that I could produce Eminem on this show. But, this might not be as surprising, but it is for some who don't know what I do for a living. I have the amazing opportunity, because I work with seniors and aging communities, to learn all this music from the 1940s and 50s. Every day I'm learning more artists, more songs, and I love it. And I honestly will go home and listen to it, and listen to the different artists do it, listen to the different members of the Rat Pack and the Andrews Sisters and all this, because I really like it. They're classics. And yes, I do them all day for work, but that's my interpretation. To get to hear these artists from 60 years ago sing so passionately, and just knowing what music meant to people at that time, what a bond it was, is just so special. So I'm going to share a little bit of one of, I would consider, maybe if you didn't know what I do for a living, you wouldn't know that I'm so crazy about these songs from the 1950s. So this is one of my favorites, The Way You Look Tonight. Someday when I'm awfully low, when the world is cold, I will feel a glow just thinking of you and the way you look tonight. You're lovely with your smile so warm and your cheeks so soft. There is nothing for me but to love you just the way you look tonight. With each word, your tenderness grows, tearing my fears apart. And that laugh that wrinkles your nose touches my foolish heart. You're lovely, never, never change. Keep that breathless charm. Won't you please arrange it? For I love you just the way you look tonight. Just the way you look tonight. Stick around. Right after this quick commercial break, we're going to be talking to Dr. Betsy King, calling in all the way from my alma mater, Nazareth College in Rochester, New York. We'll see you after the break.
Mom's fall was a wake-up call. We knew she needed help, but we also knew she'd never leave her home.
With jobs and kids, we can't always be there. We weren't sure who to trust to help around the house and make sure she takes her medications.
We did our research and found our answer. Bright Star Care. Their home care teams are led by registered nurses, with help available 24/7.
Thanks to Bright Star Care, Mom can stay where she wants to be, at home.
For a standard of care that raises the bar, call 844 for Bright Star.
The Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute is a professional music therapy practice serving medical, community, and educational settings throughout Southeast Florida. With our experienced team of 11 board-certified music therapists, we use music and research-based therapeutic interventions to help individuals of all ages and abilities reach their goals and increase their quality of life. For more information on our services and programs, please visit our website at pbmti.com. Engage with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, or call us at 561-747-9944. You are listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. If you'd like to join the conversation, the toll-free number is 888-565-1470. Now back to the show. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. You're listening to and watching Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. I'm your host, Bree Gordon, and I got so excited bragging about my guest today that I forgot some very important information. If you listen to us on the radio on 1470 AM, I want to let you know that we are moving to 95.3 FM, still WWNN, this time FM, 95.3. Look for us there next week. We're so excited about this move. So if you do join us through the radio, you can find us over there. If you're joining through Facebook Live, thank you so much. I know we're just a couple months into running there, and it's just been an awesome response. I really want to thank everyone for following us as we've made a couple moves around over the last few months. So again, 95.3 FM and Facebook Live on the Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute page. Again, we have a giveaway today with our guest who I'm just about to introduce. She is giving away her memoir, Music Heard So Deeply, and all you have to do is call in 888-565-1470 and tell us what is a song or an artist or a type of music that you like, that you think everyone would be surprised about. Again, mine was Eminem. I'm not ashamed of it. I think he's great. All right, I am really excited to introduce to you all today, back by popular demand, Dr. Betsy King, calling all the way from Nazareth College in Rochester, New York. Are you there, Dr. King?
I'm here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me.
It's so much fun to be with you again.
Good, good. Oh, I'm so glad. I probably won't wait a whole year next time if that's all right.
That's fun. I can't believe it has been a year.
It's amazing. Yeah, because I was thinking about, it was Halloween, right? And that's why we wanted people to call in with their kind of horror stories.
My goodness. Well,
it's crazy.
In almost any job you have that you love, time flies.
Exactly.
And we're both doing that, so it
true.
doesn't seem like it's been that long.
So true. We are so lucky. Absolutely. Well, again, I know that you've been on before, but it has been a while. So if you don't mind to just take a moment to introduce yourself, what it is you do, and a little bit about your background.
Sure. I've been a music therapist since 1984. It was when board certification became the national standard for music therapists. I was just becoming a music therapist then. And so I practiced full-time in various settings for about 16 years and then began teaching full-time. While I was practicing, I spent many years, about 8 or 9 years, in physical medicine rehabilitation, people who were recovering from strokes and spinal cord injuries and traumatic brain injuries. While I was there, I was also working in the primary hospital that was attached to that. I also spent many years working in special education, both in private practice with children with developmental disabilities and in the public schools. And then in between, here and there, did some gerontology work, did some cancer care. When I went to get my PhD later in life, in 2000, I had the opportunity to start a program at a local jail. And so I had an opportunity to work with inmates and see what that was like. It's been a really interesting career because I've had a chance to work with so many different kinds of people and help them with so many different kinds of challenges. And that's been really nice for me now that I'm a faculty member, because I feel like I can share those things with the students. I started out as a violin performer, a performer on the violin. Went to the University of Cincinnati Conservatory, and then went into music therapy and discovered that most of that didn't help. My theory knowledge, of course, really helped me. And my musical sense of, and I write this in the book, being a part of chamber music, a part of quartets and trios and other really intimate musical interactions set me up in a big way for the kind of musical interaction I would want to have with my clients as a music therapist. So even though I didn't transfer over the need to be able to play a Paganini Caprice in my sessions, the musical skills I gained on the way were invaluable.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a couple things to follow up what you said, as you're talking about those all those diverse populations you worked with, and you did mention this, but I remember sitting, in the classroom hearing all this and feeling like excited. I'm not graduating to do one thing the rest of my life, Right. I mean, the opportunity to it, you really had some really diverse populations and some very interesting stories along the way, many of which made it into your book, but hearing those through the course, some of them, were a little bit fear-inducing, but many of them
Well, I did always try to let you guys know what was coming.
Exactly.
Because everybody experiences something for the first time.
Yep.
When they begin to work in healthcare, especially. And it's unexpected, and then then the next day comes and you say, wow, I'm still doing my job. That's wonderful.
And sometimes by sharing those, we kind of wrote our own future, as I've shared with you, and I shared on the last show that you shared your most embarrassing moment in class, and then I did the exact same thing as a professional and texted you about it afterwards. So thanks for that.
Right.
That was really nice. And I'm just going to leave that there. You can all guess what that was.
That there and let people wonder.
That's right. I'm going to live a little air of mystery there. Totally kind of unrelated. Because you mentioned chamber music, and I haven't brought this up to anyone yet. It's kind of something I heard in passing. But have you heard about this app that it's like designed like Uber, I guess, or Airbnb or something like that, that you can order chamber music to come to your house and local musicians will come together and put on a concert in your living room?
Oh, my goodness, no. I have not heard about that.
Okay, I don't remember the name of it, but I heard about it on some talk show, and that's amazing.
That is wild. Just today, I heard that Uber was doing a day-long promotion where a nurse would come to your house and give you a flu shot. So
Oh,
I
wow.
figure if that's happening, why not bring a quartet over?
Why not? I'd rather have that. That's pretty cool. So I just want to hear about how the last year has been. I mean, I remember the years leading up to this, and when you kind of announced to us that you were writing and what that meant to you, and now that it's out there and people are starting to read it, review it, and talk to you about it, what has that been like?
Well, I think the nicest thing is that the book has really gotten to the people that I wanted it to get to, which was not the people who are not professional music therapists. I mean, it's been lovely that professional music therapists have read it and said that it echoes their experiences. But it's been more fun to hear from the people that I really wrote it for. Now, interestingly enough, some of those non-music therapists are the spouses, the parents, the siblings of music therapists who have never completely wrapped their brains around what it is their
That's
loved
really
one
cool.
is doing. And apparently, I'm going over big with the husbands who finally understand what their wives are immersed in.
So you're probably going big with the wives because...
Well, that's right.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm also hearing from people who are studying in other areas. They didn't either know that music therapy was something they could do, or they just really weren't sure what it was all about. And so I'm hearing from people where this is enabling them to think, oh, this is how I would approach that career if I wanted to do it, because this is not something you have to study only at college age.
Right.
Two of my favorite music therapists in the world started when they were 40. And so this can be a second career for somebody. It can be something that you come to later. And so that's been fun to hear from people who feel like they can make that next step in their lives because they understand more about what the profession's all about.
Oh, that's wonderful. And how rewarding for you to hear, especially in saying that you intended for that to be the goal of it and to hear the feedback.
It was. And I think another thing was that it's helped me to focus back in on sort of what are the essential things that are true about doing music therapy no matter who you're working with. And so at our national and regional conferences, I've been focusing my presentations more on those really simple and yet fundamental decisions that a music therapist makes in a session about the accompaniment pattern that they're choosing, or the harmonic complexity of what they're doing, or the importance of silence in various moments in a session. Kind of getting back to basics, and it's been interesting at the conferences to have experienced music therapists come to those presentations and really enjoy getting back to remembering what's essential.
Yeah, that's perfect. And we're going to talk more about that. But before we do, this is not your first time writing or getting published, but mostly it was more resources before about session planning, the Preludes books, or specific to documentation, which we're going to break down a little bit more later. How was this experience different, writing this personal memoir, than writing those resource-based publications?
It was tricky, actually. First of all, I had to figure out how to describe music and musical experiences without breaking any copyright laws, and also I didn't really want to put music staves and music staff and music written in the book because some of the people reading it wouldn't know how to read music. So it was interesting to describe the musical experience without quoting music. So that was interesting. And then also it was a balance of how to tell a story respectfully about a session with somebody, but still retain the sense of fun and enjoyment that we had with it. One of the things that's really interesting about music therapists, do you have just a second for this, or should we take a break?
Oh, keep going.
Okay, well, one of the things that for any therapist that I think is true is that, for example, when I worked with people who had had a traumatic brain injury, many times their appearance and their abilities were starkly different after the accident than before. And it was some students wanted to come and do their practicums with me and could not do it because it was so upsetting to them, the tragedy that had happened to this, whatever the person was that they were going to work with. But for me, I always felt like I was meeting, and I think this is true of a lot of therapists, I always felt like I was meeting that person at that moment. And so they were just a really interesting person to me that I wanted to work with.
I love that. That's awesome. What a great way to to look at it and to pass on to students too, as they're about to meet people in all different stages that they're not going to be familiar with.
And you don't see it the same way, and so you don't talk about the tragedy and you don't talk about the difficulties, but and so that might make you seem insensitive if you're not careful about how you write it.
Right.
I guess that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that makes sense. Absolutely. Just so many, as you're talking and talking about traumatic brain injuries and stroke and things like that, just so many awesome memories are coming to me, and it's particularly one I'm just thinking of working with that gentleman. And we weren't even working with him, it was a photo shoot. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Oh, absolutely. Well, he was one of my very first clients in our campus clinic here.
Yeah, and the guy, he was so patient, and we really just did the 12-bar blues in E for about 2 hours and had so much fun.
Yeah, well, he was when music was introduced into his therapeutic program, he lit up. And the first day that I was there in a session with him, suddenly he reached down into this macrame shoulder bag that he had with him, and out came a kazoo and a slide whistle and a harmonica.
That's amazing.
And he had been carrying them around with him all the months he'd been coming to speech therapy and had never pulled them out. And he didn't have any speech that he could use to talk about it. So it wasn't until music just became a part of the room he was in that he lit up, and you could see him kind of saying, "Oh, we're going to do that?" And
that's a dream.
And he reached in and pulled out all of his own musical gadgets that he had with him. And so we knew immediately that we were on the right track with him. And he eventually did get some P speech back.
Wow. Oh, my gosh. I don't think I'd ever really had that follow-up with you about that. That's really, really cool.
He learned to say his name and learned to make requests.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so we're going to go to a quick commercial break. Again, if you want to call in for a chance to win this memoir of A Music Heard So Deeply, give us a call at 888-565-1470. There's a quick word from our sponsors. The Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute is a professional music therapy practice serving medical, community, and educational settings throughout Southeast Florida. With our experienced team of 11 board-certified music therapists, we use music and research-based therapeutic interventions to help individuals of all ages and abilities reach their goals and increase their quality of life. For more information on our services and programs, please visit our website at pbmti.com. Engage with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, or call us at 561-747-9944.
Mom's fall was a wake-up call. We knew she needed help, but we also knew she'd never leave her home.
With jobs and kids, we can't always be there. We weren't sure who to trust to help around the house and make sure she takes her medications.
We did our research and found our answer. Bright Star Care. Their home care teams are led by registered nurses, with help available 24/7.
Thanks to Bright Star Care, Mom can stay where she wants to be, at home.
For a standard of care that raises the bar, call 844 for Bright Star.
You are listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. If you'd like to join the conversation, the toll-free number is 888-565-1470. Now back to the show. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. You're listening to and watching Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. Just one more time, I wanted to remind everyone that we are going to be moving to 95.3 FM locally. So if you're here in Southeast Florida, that's where you can find us. If you do listen to the radio to catch the show, same time, Wednesdays, 6 to 7 p.m., but we're moving from AM to FM at 95.3. And again, we are no longer airing live at the website. We're on Facebook Live. We've been there for a few months now. It's really going well. I love to see your comments as people are chiming in real time, answering some of these questions that we have on the show and some of the calls to action. So thank you to everyone for your support over there. We've been making some changes just to make it more, be able to reach more people in our community. And so we couldn't do that without all of you who are listening, watching, and sending us your love. So thank you very, very much. So excited to continue our conversation with Dr. Betsy King. You there, Dr. King?
I am.
Lovely, wonderful. So shocker, we got talking and amazingly ran out of time in the first segment. So I'm going to go back to following up. We're talking about your memoir, the experience of writing it, how that was different from writing things that you've done in the past. And my follow-up question to that is, do you have plans to continue writing?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Well, of course, I did feel like I had to leave out stories when I chose what was going to go into this book, so I suppose that might happen. I'm going to, of course, continue professional writing. We've just had, my colleague Lori Keogh and I have just had an article published in one of our music therapy journals
Wonderful.
on some work we did in Alzheimer's care.
Great.
So the professional writing will continue, but yes, I do. What we're planning to do is my, through, you mentioned briefly Prelude, which is Prelude Music Therapy. And it is a self-publishing company that Kathleen and I started, gadzooks, 20 years ago, I think. And we published songs for people to use with children with special needs. We published an assessment tool, some other instructional books, like a book on songwriting. And surprisingly, we really thought it would happen for about 8 years. And 20 years later, we're still selling the books, and the assessment tool is still being used. So what we've decided we'd like to try and do is do a little bit of social media. So we've started a blog, and we're writing some posts for that.
Great.
And I'm really hoping that that's where I'll put some of my more sort of immediate writing, reacting to articles that are out there, reacting to we have one page that's just called "No, That's Not Music Therapy" for when we read an article about well-meaning people who are using music in a really interesting and lovely way, but are calling it music therapy when it's not. So we have a lovely page that people can go to and understand the different levels of music that might occur in healthcare and education.
Which, those who listen to the show hear me on my soapbox all the time about, fighting for licensure or registry or whatever we can do to advocate in the state of Florida. But in New York, you have it, and you cannot use that title. There could be legal action taken.
Well, New York is a strange situation because we do use, obviously, board-certified music therapy, and there are plenty of people here working with that certification. If they want to do work in mental health care, the New York legislature decided to call it something, creative arts therapy, and decided to set aside certain educational and continuing education standards. I'm hopeful that at some point we will have the New York legislature also recognize board-certified music therapists for the work that they do. But it's a complicated state legislature issue. But in the meantime, we do have just tons of wonderful music therapists working in all different populations up here.
Great, that's wonderful. Where can people find your blog?
Well, the first place, our main website is Prelude Music Therapy, all lowercase, all together, preludemusictherapy.com. And then if you just simply put a backslash and the word blogs, B-L-O-G-S, there it is.
B-L-O-G-S, so plural, blogs, okay? And Prelude,
so preludemusictherapy.com /blogs.
Beautiful.
And we're going to tweet some, and we're going to Facebook some, but we haven't quite got that all coordinated yet.
So it doesn't have a business page on Facebook yet? It's mostly being shared through personal?
We actually do have a business page on Facebook,
Great.
but I'm going to say that I think it looks a little sad and lonely right now.
Okay.
Because both of us are, doing a lot on our own. And as you know, your job gobbles you up sometimes.
It happens.
But that is sort of our New Year's resolution, to do a little bit. I would like to do a little more of the kind of writing I did in the book on the blog.
A few hundred, like over 100,000 people just heard you say that, so you are held accountable now.
Well, if they go to Facebook, if they go to Prelude Music Therapy on Facebook, they will see our page, and we'll be telling when the blog is updated. And now I guess that'll be good. I'll be motivated by the fact that people might actually be looking.
Talk about accountability. Absolutely. Very good. That's awesome. You mentioned, the assessment tool, things like that. And I know that you're going to be sharing about that because it's a very, speaking of Facebook, as people are asking questions, that's a big thing that comes up, anything documentation related, any kind of standard for that. So you're going to be actually presenting on that at our upcoming national conference.
Yes, we have a tool. Kathleen and I developed a tool 20 years ago, which is called SIMTAP, which stands for Special Education Music Therapy Assessment Process. And I think for your listeners, what might be interesting for them to think about is the fact that a music therapy assessment is often hard for administrators in a special education setting or a hospital setting to understand, because when a physical therapist does an assessment, they're assessing physical skills. When a speech-language pathologist does an assessment, they're assessing communication skills. But usually when a music therapist does an assessment, they are not assessing musical skills. Mm-hmm. They're assessing the potential for music therapy intervention, which includes the music and the music interventions and the relationship between the therapist and the client. They're looking at the potential for all of that to have an impact on any aspect of that person's life, which might include physical skills, might include emotional growth or grieving, might include pain management. And so it's tough to recognize at first that the assessment process is different for us because music covers all the domains. So the process that we developed for special education is actually one I brought from my medical work, and it's one which compares how someone works on the skills that they're working on, be it a communication skill or a physical skill, an emotional skill, how they do it without music therapy, and we collect data about that. And then we try to do a parallel experience, but simply add the music therapy experience and collect data and compare those two so that we can talk to a medical or an educational team about the difference music therapy is making for that person.
That's wonderful. What kind of feedback have you heard from people using that tool? Has it, particularly in response to working as a part of a team, how do the non-music therapy professionals respond to that?
We've had tremendous success with this tool. We expected when we first put it out, there wasn't anything out there at the time, and we expected when we first put it out that it would be replaced quickly by somebody who would have a better idea. But what has happened is that it has provided a relatively clear explanation to people, and we've had just dozens and dozens of times for us personally, and then this is multiplied with the music therapists who use the tool, who have told us that administrators say to them, oh, now I get it. Now I understand where music therapy would fit into this, for example, individual educational plan or into the medical plan. Now I understand where music therapy would fit. Or now I understand why you said no. Now I understand why you did the assessment and said, no, music therapy is not the most important thing that could happen for this person. We developed the assessment specifically for special education, and unfortunately not every child can receive music therapy. There are limited funds. They can't receive everything they need. So we have to be able to say, music therapy as a related service, and anybody who's in special ed will recognize that term, this is necessary for them to benefit from their IEP. So we're making a higher standard for the application of music therapy because we simply are required to due to limited funds.
Yeah, excellent. You are presenting on the SEMTAP, and also you mentioned earlier the unique needs for early, professionals coming in and just knowing what are all the things I need to be considering when I'm entering these new situations. And
yeah, I think that, it's when years ago, now I'm going to talk like an old person now, so just imagine me with dentures and a
Perfect.
walker. Way back in the olden days, there were music therapists sometimes were trained with lists of activities. So they had file boxes, what I used to call file box music therapy, where I have 10 interventions to use with a geriatric population, and I've had 10 songs to sing for kids who are working on behavior or whatever. But really the way we teach now, and I think pretty much the way you came through, is we say, no, you're going to look at the individual client in front of you, and you're going to understand what their diagnosis is and what their immediate needs are. And then you're going to look at music, and you're going to say, how does music parallel those things? So, for example, if I'm looking at somebody who needs to keep their head upright, I'm looking at the upward movement of a melodic line, I might modulate up in a piece to bring the person to a taller posture. What are the things? And then I'm also looking at what's their musical preference and what kind of an accompaniment makes sense to them. And I build all of my interventions, whether they be pre-planned, strategic as you might call them, or whether they're improvised in that moment in the session. Either way, I'm building those upon what is a musical response. And then the neat thing is you start the music and your client comes back at you with something, and then that changes what you're doing, and you respond back and forth just like you're in a jazz combo or a chamber music situation, and you begin to have not just the direct goal that you're working on, but also a higher level of relationship and a higher level of achievement between the two of you and how you build the relationship, and also the fulfillment that your client feels.
That's wonderful. And let me tell you a few ways how that plays out in my life.
Oh, I'd love to hear that.
No, you know what? It's funny. I work with a group. It's actually a speech-based group, mostly with individuals with Parkinson's. But we do movement things too. Just knowing that, using music as a tool to make our movements more rhythmic, and in turn can make our speech more rhythmic, and it's all connected because the brain is an amazing thing. And I often think about, as I'm at the keyboard, your example of sitting in a room and hearing someone say, "And now we sit back down."
Oh, no, wait. I'll tell you what it was. It was, "I'm going up the stairs."
Yeah, right. There we go. Yeah. I think about that all the time. I'm like, okay, Bree, make your music match, what you're doing. And so funny.
Well, I have a student, one of our thesis students here is getting ready to look at the fact that music is used so much for gait training. Mm-hmm. And he's planning on doing some research comparing how long they will work on the gait training, and comparing music that he chooses based on the literature and what other music therapists are using versus what the patient chooses to use. Because, we know that the rhythm of the music has a direct subconscious, pre-awareness impact on movement. So we know that's happening at the brainstem level. But there's also the level of motivation for the person, emotional motivation, emotional interest in what's happening. And I love that he wants to look at both of those things.
Yeah, that's excellent. All right, we're going to take another quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk specifically about this new amazing clinic that's opened up and how it's just changing how professionals, look at the importance of working with one another and how we can benefit one another in the field. So we're going to go to a quick commercial break. We come back, more conversation with Dr. Betsy King.
Mom's fall was a wake-up call. We knew she needed help, but we also knew she'd never leave her home.
With jobs and kids, we can't always be there. We weren't sure who to trust to help around the house and make sure she takes her medications.
We did our research and found our answer. Bright Star Care. Their home care teams are led by registered nurses with help available 24/7.
Thanks to Bright Star Care, Mom can stay where she wants to be, at home.
For a standard of care that raises the bar, call 844 for Bright Star.
The Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute is a professional music therapy practice serving medical, community, and educational settings throughout Southeast Florida. With our experienced team of 11 board-certified music therapists, we use music and research-based therapeutic interventions to help individuals of all ages and abilities reach their goals and increase their quality of life. For more information on our services and programs, please visit our website at pbmti.com. Engage with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, or call us at 561-747-9944. You are listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. If you'd like to join the conversation, the toll-free number is 888-565-1470. Now back to the show. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. You're listening to and watching Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. I'm your host, Bree Gordon, and I am so thrilled to continue our conversation. I can't believe it is so late already. We could probably do this for hours. Dr. Betsy King, thank you again so much for taking the time to join me tonight.
I'm loving it.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I just wanted to remind people, even in our last segment here, we are still looking for that music, that song, that artist that you just don't think anyone will know. how much you love it, and that when you are in your car or your shower, that is what you are belting to. So call into the show, 888-565-1470. Let us know what it is. And the first caller is going to win a copy of this memoir we've been talking about all night, Music Heard So Deeply. It's a great opportunity. So don't forget to call in for that option. Also want to let you know that starting next week, we're going to be moving. So if you listen to us via the radio, we won't be on 1470 AM. We're moving to 95.3 FM. Really, really excited about that. And you can check us out on Facebook Live at the Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute page. Okay, I've gotten all that out of the way.
I was going to say that if somebody wants to post in the comments on the Facebook Live, that we could also recognize that.
Beautiful. Let's roll that over. I haven't looked at that yet. That may have already happened.
I just saw a comment. She's at the hair salon, so she can't call in, but she loves fish.
Who says that?
Well, her name is Allison Shevlin.
Oh, Allie. So Allie is activity director, advocate, patient care, wonderful human extraordinaire, okay? She employs us for 4 hours of music therapy a week, and 3 of those are at night, specifically for Sundowners programs as they transition from dinner and saying goodbye to their loved ones to bed. Music is literally placed in the center of that to help them with that transition. She's incredible. She's amazing. She will just read your book and be your best friend for the rest of your life, so yay.
There you go.
There you go. That's awesome. I love it. And she loves fish. Very cool. So I wanted to, I had something exciting to say and I totally lost it. Oh, I know what it was.
Well, you wanted to know about our wellness and rehabilitation industry.
Oh, yeah. There is work things that I was going to say, but more fun than that. We mentioned Facebook, and I just went on really quickly in the break, and I wanted to just, I want to honor Dr. King, how hard it must have been for you to see me tag you in a Facebook post with such a blatant grammatical error, and you didn't call me out or correct me.
I do give you a break now.
I want you to know that I appreciate how kind that was. Because I have many a paper with many of those red pens, but that was nice of you. I did fix it.
Terrific.
Yeah, I did fix it. I wanted you to know that.
I appreciate that.
I knew you would. All right, now back to work. This clinic, this just sounds like there's so many cool things going on. Tell me about how long has it been open now?
Well, we've now, about a year.
Okay.
So I work, just so your listeners know, I teach at a small school called Nazareth College in Rochester, New York. Sounds like a religious school, but it's not. It's a co-ed, non-sectarian school. About 2,000 undergraduates and 1,000 or so graduate students. And what's amazing about it, when I came here to interview, having worked in rehabilitation medicine especially, and in special ed, I had been working as part of an interprofessional team for years. A lot of people use the word interdisciplinary, but we say interprofessional.
Okay.
And I had been working like that for years, and when I came here, there was a physical therapist on my search committee, and I thought, oh my gosh, I have found my people.
That's cool. Yeah.
And as it turned out, we had active clinics in spaces that we could find for physical therapy and for speech-language pathology and for art therapy. When I got here, we started a music therapy clinic in a small space. A play therapy expert came. We added an occupational therapy program. Our nursing program has recently had a renovation in another building that has, so now they have what looks like an entire unit of a hospital where they can do practical work. But in any case, what happened was that we were fortunate to get the support of our development team and our board of trustees, and we have now completed this brand new clinic building, which has all of the clinics I mentioned, physical, occupational, speech-language pathology, play therapy, music therapy, art therapy, all active in the same building, with faculty providing the supervision and students providing the therapy to people in our community who can't access care any other way. Their insurances run out, or they can't. The facilities that they go to don't offer the kind of therapy they need. Not only are all the clinics working individually with clients, but we are now actively co-treating in so many different ways. We have a neuro group where our physical therapy students and music therapy students come together. Music therapy students and speech therapy students work together constantly. art therapy and play therapy, music therapy and play therapy.
Awesome.
It just goes on. And we also have a full course that all the graduate students take, which is a course just in how to be part of an interprofessional team.
Oh, wow.
So,
That's so cool.
And I'm the online coordinator for that. And we are just starting piloting this spring a basic graduate research course. We recognized that everybody was doing this, and so now we're piloting a course that would be populated by students from all the different programs. So there's not only just a belief in interprofessional work, but it's actually happening every single day here. And here we are, little Nazareth College, with all of these wonderful professionals and all of this exciting work going on. It's just thrilling to be here.
It's awesome. It's so exciting. I'm so proud of my alma mater, and when I hear more things. You guys had a conference over the summer, right, with Deepak Chopra?
We had an interprofessional conference with Deepak Chopra, and all of the presentations were based around interprofessional work.
Wow.
So if people go to the Nazareth College website, which is naz.edu, and they put in the York Wellness and Rehabilitation Institute, they can see a video that shows the entire building. They can see a lot of information about it. It's really extraordinary.
I don't even remember, when you were here last year, I don't even remember if it had a name.
No, I don't think, well, we were just opening, and the wonderful family that gave the greatest amount of support and named the building were kind of shy about it. And so until the moment that we unveiled it, we did not know that it was the York Wellness and Rehabilitation Institute. But we also have wonderful donors to music therapy who contributed a total of $2 million towards creative arts therapy in support of music therapy. So we have a wing named after one of the families, and then we have the Lipson Music Therapy Clinic. So our music therapy clinic has all digital recording. We have about 7 rooms, opportunities to observe, opportunities to record what we're doing. It really heightens our supervision, as you talked about it.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely.
It's really I feel very fortunate.
I imagine you don't have too many of those open office hours lying around like you had when you first started.
Well, by the way, we now have 2 full-time music therapy faculty members who focus almost entirely on clinical training and running the clinic.
Wow.
So I do focus more on the academic side of things.
Great.
But the wonderful thing is I can walk across campus and run a session anytime.
Are you still active in the field then?
Yeah, so I have not been able to do anything over the last couple of semesters, but because it's just been a little bit insane. But I have a couple of, I'm crossing my fingers, emergent research projects, both interprofessional, one with a speech-language pathology professor and one with a physical therapy professor, where we'll be hopefully testing a couple of music therapy interventions.
How exciting. With our remaining 3 minutes here, I just wanted to ask, again, because I promised it in the beginning and it was so meaningful to me. I mean, if someone is listening today and they're really in any of these professions or disciplines that we've been mentioning, what would be your advice if they're looking to collaborate? How would you recommend someone to go about this experience?
Well, I think one of the first things to do is to go and observe a music therapist working. Just ask them if you can be an observer in a session. If not that, then I just think a good sit down where you're having one-to-one conversation with another music therapist. I taught a class the other morning with one of my physical therapy colleagues, and she and I basically, when we planned the class, we planned to just show videos, and then both of us spontaneously looked at the videos and commented on how we might address what we were seeing from the client. And we just modeled our interprofessional interaction to them. And they saw the energy we got from getting ideas from each other and building off of each other's suggestions. So I think those kinds of conversations between professionals are the most important thing. And not to worry about the boundaries and the different cultures. Make it work. Figure out a way to make it work.
Oh, I love that. As always, I mean, I wish it could go on for hours. Thank you so much, Dr. King, for taking the time to join me tonight, to share about all the things you've got going on. We didn't even scratch the surface, but really, it's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And please, everyone, I hope that you will continue your wonderful support. I can't tell you what it means to me. Again, we're going to be on FM next week. So exciting. Celebrate with us, 95.3. And you can check us out on Facebook Live at Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute. Thank you again for joining us. We'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. We hope you enjoyed today's program and discovered new ways to bring music, art, and dance into your home or workplace. Please find a copy of today's show at pbmti.com. If you have any questions for our guest or myself, please email me at Bree, that's BREE, at pbmti.com, or call the Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute at 561-747-9944. Tune back in next week for an all-new live show. See you then.
The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly those of its hosts, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.